Now, you may well have seen there have been plenty of stories of animals behaving differently during lockdown, and with us out of the way, some animals have been making the most of it. Well, researchers have a name for all of this, an Anthropause, and they're urging further study of what's been happening. Well, our science correspondent Victoria Gill is joining us to talk about this. Hi, Victoria. What is an Anthropause?
Well, it's this kind of unique, unprecedented, I think is probably the most overused word in the reporting of the pandemic, but this is an unprecedented lack of human activity. So, through huge human and economic costs, through the most tragic of circumstances, we've sort of pushed the pause button on human movement and activity through lockdown all over the world. So what these scientists are saying, and they're wildlife scientists who are basically involved in tracking animal movement and looking at how we share the planet with lots of other species in every continent all over the world. What they're saying is that we need to bring together that data where all these different species have been tracked so that we can really measure exactly what's gone on before, during and after lockdown. We can measure the impact of our own absence because, as you can imagine, on an increasingly crowded planet, it is very difficult to measure human absence, and here's a unique opportunity.
What kind of things do you think they're expecting to find?
Well, it's all about what they're keen to understand is how we might take lessons from lockdown and make some easy and attainable changes that might have a good impact for wildlife and nature. So we know, and scientists fully expect, that, say, the road network being so very quiet is going to be very good for a lot of species, especially migrating species, terrestrial land animals that can move around much more easily. There's going to be a lot less roadkill. They're even suggesting, some scientists are suggesting, that might have population scale impacts for species like hedgehogs in the UK, for example, where they reckon about a third of those animals per year, the third of the mortality of those animals per year is on the roads. So we know that it's potentially going to have some beneficial impacts. What they're looking at is where the biggest impacts are. So if you find certain spaces while you're tracking animals are where that movement increases and where you get some beneficial effects, then maybe that's where you could put in a wildlife corridor or a crossing, or maybe that's where you could reshape the transport network a little bit so that we could take some of those beneficial impacts out of lockdown and into the future, so we can sort of share our space a lot more successfully.
And I've only a few seconds, Victoria, but presumably there's a flip side to this, a detriment, which is as lockdown eases, all these animals who had got used to one thing have to get used to it changing again.
Yeah, we would expect that the transport in particular and all that the roads would get busier. So that's the real aim, is to take some long-term lessons from this.
All right, Victoria, thank you very much indeed. Be interested to talk once that work has been done on how nature has responded to us disappearing for a little while and then returning.